The USCIS fee increase was supposed to speed up processing times, but has it? In this video, you'll learn the processing timelines for each of the most important forms required for your application, and be sure to watch until the end where we reveal the complete timeline for your entire marriage immigration journey. We've helped many couples navigate this journey effectively by moving around all of the common and uncommon time-wasting pitfalls along the way. Just like Josh and Andrea, who followed our process to get their green card in only 35 days. If you're struggling to find the right solution for your marriage green card needs, you can speak to us directly by using the link in the description below. Now let's get into it. First, did you know that the USCIS is almost entirely funded by filing fees? And why is this important? It's important because of what the USCIS states on its website. Quote, "These fee collections fund the cost of fairly and efficiently adjudicating immigration benefit requests." This essentially means that the USCIS must appropriately set their fees so that they can self-fund fairly and efficiently processing your applications. And this is big because the USCIS just recently increased its fees, stating that the reason was to support current and projected workloads and avoid backlog accumulation. Additionally, the increased fees are also supposed to be used to increase personnel and provide for officer training. From their statements, it would appear that they do intend to increase efficiency through 1. Supporting the current and future workloads, 2. Avoid increasing the backlog, and 3. Hiring more employees. Additionally, they also seem to be addressing making fair decisions through officer training to cut down on the many mistakes this agency makes. But has the USCIS actually sped things up? I mean, yes and no. For one, check out this cool update. It's a big milestone to reduce the backlog for the first time in over 10 years. But this update was posted before the filing fees went into effect, meaning it's only been a few months since those fees increased. Keep in mind, a lot of people applied in the months leading up to April to avoid paying the higher fees, meaning the USCIS may have been temporarily loaded with a surge in new filings. Plus, the entire immigration system is still currently dealing with a 9.5 million case backlog, so it might be quite a while before we see any real improvements. But despite how slow the USCIS moves, there are still a ton of strategies, tips, and tricks you can use to place your application on the fast track to approval. Members of our Marriage Immigration Method program, which helps immigrant couples handle their entire adjustment of status all the way through naturalization on their own, are getting green cards on average in 6 months and work permits in only 2.5 months. And this doesn't account for all the time saved by getting and following our complete and simple step-by-step framework available to you on demand and on your own time frame. On average, our members prep their entire file in 2 weeks versus a few months if you work with a lawyer or even do it yourself. You can apply to join our super efficient program using the link we provided in the description. But now let's get into how long the current processing times are. So when you're married to a US citizen, you actually qualify for a special perk that's called concurrent filing. We made a special video covering this and the other advantages of having a US citizen sponsor here. Basically, this perk allows you to file every single form together in one file all at once. And that means that you get processing started on every form at the exact same time. You'll end up submitting over 5 different forms as well as all of your evidence, and these packets can get so thick that the members of our program often like to share them with us all, just like these ones here. But the main forms that you can file concurrently are forms I-130 and I-45. These two are used to establish the immigrant's relative relationship to the citizen's spouse and the eligibility for the green card. On average, the USCIS is taking anywhere between 10 to 23 months to process green card applications. But in our practice, based on our current experience, it takes around a year. I mean, some cases are approved in under 2 months, but that is still pretty rare and you definitely can't count on it. Plus, there are still cases out there pending for over 2 years. But before I cover work permit processing times, just know that you will be required to submit more than just forms I-130 and I-45 to meet the requirements for obtaining a marriage-based green card. You will also need to submit a medical exam, establish you meet the financial requirements, and possibly need to submit supplementary information through a few additional forms. That being said, work permits, or form I-765, is currently taking the USCIS under 6 months. That's 6 months that the USCIS is preventing you from possibly adding another 30K or more in income for you both. But this is just another compelling reason to take advantage of concurrent filing, so no additional time is wasted in addition to the time the USCIS uses. But these processing times are assuming things go smoothly. You absolutely need to account for errors and mistakes that lead to requests for evidence and even notices of intent to deny. A common question we get is, if I get an RFE, will they still be able to approve my work permit? Or do they first need to receive a response to my RFE to approve the work permit? Interestingly enough, we're seeing a ton of work permit approvals even with a pending request for evidence. But a pending RFE is what delays your green card, which is what you're ultimately after. So here's the processing timelines for RFEs and NOIDs. Mistakes or errors can come from typically 3 sources: you, any third party such as legal professionals, or the USCIS. Nonetheless, the moment you receive an RFE or NOID, your case is now on hold until the issue has been resolved. So this means your case will be on hold from the moment the USCIS action is determined, while the letter informing you is being mailed, for the entire time it takes you or your lawyer to respond to the RFE or NOID, and all the time the USCIS takes to review the response and make a final decision. That's why we teach our members how to receive these notices online the moment they are issued and respond to them as quickly as possible to get that approval, well before the official notice ever arrives in their mailbox. But regarding RFEs and the time they take on average to process, it can actually take the USCIS months to approve your case after they receive your response. We had members who responded right away and got their green card just 2 days later, but then we've also had some who've been waiting for months afterwards. And it's the same for NOIDs. You can't really respond to that and expect a communication back. Often the USCIS just doesn't say anything and you're sitting there wondering, okay, did they actually receive my response? Did I adequately respond or did I mess it up? Why is it taking them so long to communicate with me? It's simply not their priority. Let's hope that the increased filing fees support some serious training of the new immigration officers, because you might be surprised at how often the USCIS makes mistakes. For example, one of our members received a NOID claiming that she only submitted some photos, texts, and a few other items that you can see here, when it turned out, after checking her online account, at least 75% of the evidence she provided was not scanned into her file. It's mistakes like these that make timelines misleading because first, you can't predict when a phony RFE or NOID will be issued, and second, these timelines don't account for all the time required to handle responding. Not to mention, responses to RFEs and NOIDs are typically several thousands of dollars when using a lawyer. But even when you finally get your green card, the journey isn't over. So let's discuss the timelines for removal of conditions and naturalization. If you're just looking into this process, you might be so fixated on the initial green card process that you haven't even discovered the 2 application processes that come next. And for both of these, you can continue to receive RFEs and NOIDs until the processes have been completed. Now, the first of the next 2 processes is called removal of conditions. If you've been married for less than 2 years at the time of approval for your green card, you'll be issued a temporary green card valid for only 2 years. And when applying for your permanent 10-year green card, you'll need to prove your genuine marriage all over again, meaning you'll need to submit evidence again, but new evidence, and there's always another possibility for an interview. And why do you need to prove your legitimate relationship again? Because the USCIS is presuming those new marriages, even if you've been together but not married for a very long time, as a fraudulent attempt to gain immigration benefits. And this process takes, and remember, this is only for USCIS processing, 12 to 24 months, but can take significantly longer, and that's why the USCIS is now issuing extensions valid for 48 months to give themselves some space to process these cases. And finally, there's the naturalization process, which is yet again another application. This is where you're guaranteed to have an interview, and this is also the USCIS's final opportunity to test whether you do have a genuine relationship and whether you're still eligible, assuming you're applying within 3 years. Yes, that means they will look into the initial green card application, removal of conditions application, including any RFEs and NOIDs you may have received in evaluating your naturalization, and evaluate everything up until this moment to make the final decision on your multi-year marriage immigration journey. And the USCIS lists the processing time for naturalization at 18 to 24 months, which in practice is currently taking less than 6 months. I believe the USCIS is heavily prioritizing these at the moment to naturalize as many people as possible. This is likely a politically motivated move, so we don't really know how it'll play out after the November elections. So, all in all, the total marriage immigration journey from start to finish, on average, is around 3.5 to 5 years. So definitely buckle up, which is why we also understood providing the entire solution for the marriage-based immigration journey to be so important as a part of our marriage immigration method. So definitely check out our link below if this sounds like the solution you've been looking for. Otherwise, like this video and we'll see you next week.